Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So, funny story to begin the show here on this Victory Monday. For those who happen to be at the game on Sunday, if you grab the Kickoff magazine with Buda Baker on the cover, keep it. It's a collector's item. Let me explain. MJ knows where I'm going with this. Page 49, the marquee matchup. They do it I do it every single home game. You highlight a player from the Cardinals and a player from the opponent. Well, the matchup for this past week was Corey Peters against Weston Richburg, the Cardinals defensive tackle against the 49ers starting center. And because of how well San Francisco ran the football in the first meeting, it made for a natural matchup to highlight. The problem? Yeah, neither of them played. In fact, both of them were inactive. As I was told, just bad luck.
Well, has it ever happened before?
No, that's the other thing. I was told it had never happened before.
Yeah.
There's too many, put it this way, there's too many firsts here in this first season of ours with the Arizona Cardinals.
That was a key matchup.
It was a great matchup. I'm sure it was well written.
Well,
of course it was well written. I wrote it.
Sure, exactly. You know, and the game is won in the trenches, so you can get away with that. And Peters, we know how important he was the previous game when he was in the game. They were only averaging, according to Kyle Odegaard, 3.3 yards per carry versus 5.5 when he was on the sidelines. Now, the good news for me is I do a Q&A with a player that normally is on the ticket. Now, sometimes they have Big Red on the ticket or maybe a cheerleader.
The Big Red interview, that might be difficult.
Right. It'd be a lot of muting and just wouldn't be able to get any answers out of him. So I think next home game, I'm going to interview Josh Rosen. So I did Buda Baker last week and really some interesting stuff. It's kind of like not just football questions. It's more about life questions, and then we go behind the mask, and you want to get one answer.
Their hobbies, what do they like?
So I planned this out a couple weeks prior to that. You got to do it based on what's happened in the last couple of weeks. So it's going to happen.
Look,
what was your alternative though? Peterson versus Goodwin?
Yeah, that had been discussed, and Peterson will be a marquee matchup later on this season. But you kind of try to plan these things out. But if you have to adjust because of injuries or something, you adjust. But these two injuries, though, it happened midweek, and in the case of Corey Peters, it happened Friday when he didn't practice, and yeah, that didn't look too good.
But he was optimistic. Coach Wilkes was optimistic. Maybe it was gamesmanship. And I wasn't at the stadium early. I was there early for some of the early games. But I'm sure they worked him out, or he at least tried to go. And the good news is now he's going to be off until the Kansas City game. We're going to get into a couple of guys that can return, including 2 starters on defense.
Yeah, and with that, let's take off on this Victory Monday. Here's what's ahead on the show here, as we've got a complete recap of the Week 8 victory. We'll be joined by the Cardinals Stat Wiz, back by popular demand, and of course your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday towards the end of the show here on Cards Cover 2. But first, the news of the day, and as MJ mentioned, head coach Steve Wilkes in his Monday afternoon meeting with the media announced that no major injuries to report, which is good. Even better, Trey Boston and Justin Pugh, both of who did not play on Sunday, are expected to return in 2 weeks when the Cardinals visit Kansas City and take on the Chiefs in Week 10. So that is all good news, because you certainly don't want to go into the bye with any serious injuries or lingering issues, but if you've got minor bumps and bruises or an extra week for guys like Boston, who's been dealing with shoulder and rib issues, this now comes at a good time.
And it's going to help a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who's been playing through 3 different injuries. He hasn't really missed any time when it comes to game day, that he's not on a snap count. We're going to get into this because yesterday we got a chance to see the true 4-3 defense, and we're going to have numbers to back it up. Now, because they played 21 personnel, that means that the Cardinals were able to play a true 4-3, at least on first down, which is a running down. And that really means you have a running back and a fullback in the game, a couple wide receivers and a tight end. It's really a run-heavy formation. Now this week, in a couple of weeks, you're going against the Chiefs. Now they're going to play the Browns on the road this week, so we'll see what they do there. But they run a lot of 21 personnel. Matter of fact, Anthony Sherman was one of the first guys that Bruce Arians and Steve Keim traded to the Chiefs. He's had a nice little career. They run a lot of 21 personnel. But they also run a lot of 3 and 4 wide, and they got a lot of speed. So I would think Boston would go back in the lineup, and he would take the place of Buchanan. But I don't know if they would do that 85, 90% of the time. This team has played a 4-2-5 the majority of the season, and they're one of the number one team in the league when it comes to blitzing. So curious to see what they do, because now you have options, and I think the 4-3 really worked yesterday, stacking the line. And you got to give Buck and Reddick a lot of credit because they made tackles in the open field.
Both played very, very well. The Cardinals this week, as they hit their bye, will be on the practice field on Tuesday and Wednesday. And interesting to hear Coach Wilk say it's going to be Cardinals versus Cardinals. No game planning, no getting ahead and looking at what Kansas City does, but having the offense go against the defense. And now the question for the Cardinals is maintaining their momentum after Sunday to last until Kansas City week.
Number one, I just think the atmosphere, particularly in the team meeting just now, you can tell the vibe was different. So that alone right there is enough to build off of, coming off a win. And then just being able to go out here this week and, continue to emphasize and teach the fundamentals and technique and reteach some things that we probably touched on back in training camp. So it's going to be a good opportunity for us this week, and that's how we're going to do it.
Excuse me, Coach. It's a good week for the Cardinals to kind of refresh, also add some things for Byron Leftwich and that offense with Josh Rosen, and they'll take some time off through Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, and I don't know if they did this. I think Wilkes wanted these guys to get away after the Thursday night game against the Broncos, and obviously he had to make a tough decision by letting go of Mike McCoy. But normally at the halfway point, they do a true evaluation. Okay, they go back and look what worked, what didn't. Maybe we'll see more of 4-3. We definitely saw David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald much more involved in the offense. I know it's only one game and it's not a quick fix. So you kind of go back to basics. You do a self-evaluation, and that's where you start looking at, okay, what do we want to do in the second half of the season? So I got to think that's taking place over the next couple of days. And again, you're right, it's Cardinals versus Cardinals. And they reteach things. They go back to more technique and coaching. Robert Camdici had a good game yesterday, but there was one play that he didn't stay in his gap, and he gave up a long run. And that's stuff you want to clean up in the second half of the season, especially against the running backs they're going to face, including Kareem Hunt.
First half of the season ends with a victory over San Francisco as we look back and tell you how exactly it happened on Sunday at State Farm Stadium. 18-15, the final score as the Cardinals upended the San Francisco 49ers. As we take a look at the highlights here on Cards Cover 2. And first quarter, how about this? The third play of the ball game, and Marcus Golden with the sack on third down. Much more on Golden and his play as we go on here on this Monday. Cardinals' second possession did not end well. The pocket around Josh Rosen collapses, gets called for intentional grounding, and because the play happened in the end zone, well, that's a safety, 2 points for the 49ers.
Yeah, you can see Rosen here, not a lot of great protection up front. Obviously, he had to make a decision. I think he panicked a little bit here, but he did the right thing. You don't want to give up 6 points right there. Obviously not the way you want to start, but the Cardinals were able to overcome that.
Second quarter, it's 3-2 Cardinals after a Phil Dawson field goal, and Rosen is picked off by Jaquoski Tart, and that was a pass intended for Christian Kirk.
Yeah, you can watch Rosen here, and you can listen to the play-by-play, so to speak, and you look at Rosen, you can see he sees Kirk. Kirk obviously had traffic around him. He did not lead him on that throw, and that led to an interception.
Cardinals nearly got the ball right back, though. Robert Camdici shows his athleticism, tips the ball at the line of scrimmage, dives, and nearly came up with the interception. 49ers kick a field goal, go up 5-3. Still in the second quarter. And problems for the offense. Rosen sacked by Richard Sherman, who had a clear path to Rosen. By the way, just the second career sack in Sherman's career. Same drive, Rosen sacked again, this time on third down, and the Cardinals are forced to punt. To the third quarter, the speed of Marquise Goodwin on full display across the middle, beats Patrick Peterson, goes 55 yards for the touchdown. By the way, the flag on the play, offsides on the Cardinals, which is obviously declined, and with that score, the 49ers take a 12-3 lead.
All right, you look at Peterson when we show the replay here, he's basically across the line of scrimmage from Now, if he forces Goodwin to go to the outside, but instead you got to give Goodwin credit. Right off the line of scrimmage, he knew where he wanted to go, and obviously Patrick wasn't able to catch him.
Niners on the move again. We see the screen game, this time to the tight end, George Kittle, and that's something that the Cardinals had trouble with in the first meeting with the Niners.
They did a really good job on the fullback, and Kittle, he had one long catch yesterday for the most part. What an improvement from the previous game they played them.
Robbie Gould kicks a field goal, 15-3, 49ers, and here comes the Cardinals. Rosen steps up in the pocket, throws 37 yards downfield to Larry Fitzgerald, and the comeback is underway.
Nice protection. David Johnson gets a little help there. He gets rid of the ball just in time, and Fitz catches the football. Nice to see Larry running down the seam. I think that's a really easy throw for Josh Rosen.
Roughing the passer penalty puts the Cardinals in great field position. A couple of plays later, once again, Rosen to Fitzgerald. This time they connect on a 13-yard touchdown. Fitzgerald in the back of the end zone. This pulls the Cardinals to within 15-10 with 11:06 left on the clock.
Yeah, you can see Rosen right here. And Larry's lined up inside, makes a quick move to the end zone for the touchdown. Larry's going to catch that ball 10 out of 10 times.
The 112th career touchdown for Larry Fitzgerald, 18th all-time against the Cardinals, or against the 49ers, excuse me. After a 49ers punt, the Cardinals moving the football again. The pass to Jermaine Gresham, who loses the football. Did not look like it was knocked out of his hands, just slipped out, and it's ruled on the field that the 49ers defender touched the ball while he was out of bounds. However, it's reviewed, and the call is overturned. By the way, the first Niners takeaway since week 4, but certainly something you don't often see, especially with Gresham, who took full responsibility for that play. And fortunately for the Cardinals, the defense was able to come up with another stop. And this time, well, how about Budda Baker and Rodney Gunter? It's third down, and they combine on the sack. That gets the 49ers off the field. The Cardinals offense back on the field with 2 minutes to go, and the fun begins. Rosen in the pocket with time, 20 yards to Larry Fitzgerald, who had an 11-yard catch earlier on the drive. That helped set up this, a 9-yard touchdown to Christian Kirk. Those two connecting often this season and hopefully often in the future. It's the go-ahead score, 16-15, Cardinals in front.
Yeah, you watch Kirk get off the line of scrimmage. He's able to beat the corner, and the safety is not able to get there to deflect the football. Great throw, great catch. He only threw it to one guy, and he was the only guy that was going to catch that football.
Kirk lays on the ground for just a few moments, and it took a hard hit, but maintained possession of the football. Cardinals, they go for 2, and we need a big play. You look for number 11. Larry Fitzgerald gets hit, goes into the end zone, and then spikes the football. It's been talked around the county. It's been talked around the country. We'll talk more about it here on Cards Cover 2. Last chance for the 49ers. The snap over the head of quarterback C.J. Beathard. Ball falls incomplete. Cardinals come up with the win, 18-15, their second of the season. And certainly, well, it's been a long time since the Cardinals have had that moment, but certainly good to see, and especially at home. That's what was the first win for the Cardinals at State Farm Stadium this season.
We talked about that. That's how it was, we looked at the schedule when it came out in April, and it was April, and I'm thinking, all right, they got to take care of business at home, and unfortunately just couldn't get it going for different reasons. Obviously, a lot of, Sam Bradford, he had a new coordinator now that you have Leftwich. So, but anyways, on that Fitz 2-point conversion, if you look at Chad Williams, when he goes out, maybe he's going to run the fade route, almost 3 guys were on him, and then a couple of the guys came up to try to make the tackle. So I think they didn't realize that Larry was going to do a bubble screen, and obviously he's got the body to get 2 yards for you. So great play call there, and it allowed the Cardinals to have a field goal lead, which was probably going to be the distance in the game. Yeah,
as opposed to just that kicking the extra point and going up 2. You forced the 49ers to get in field goal range. They were unable to, and the Cardinals come up with the win. Time now for the 2-minute drill with the gentleman who had the call on the Arizona Cardinals radio network.
It's the Arizona Cardinals 2-minute drill. Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley. The Cardinals come from behind. 15-3 they trail with about 11 minutes to go. Josh Rosen, it's Larry Fitzgerald. And then you had the roughing the passer, so tack on 15 yards more. And then the touchdown pass to Fitz. And then Josh Rosen comes back with a touchdown pass to Christian Kirk and a 2-point play, and then the Cardinals defense seals it. Wolf, what we just mentioned there, what stood out to you the most there in the fourth quarter?
Okay, number one, the fact that Larry Fitzgerald spiked the football on the 2-point conversion. That's number one right there. But number two, David, it's got to be Josh Rosen. Are you kidding me? Look, things were not going well through 3 quarters of this football game for Josh Rosen. It wasn't like he was lighting it up, right? Had thrown a bad pick as well, late over the middle. And yet, Josh Rosen rallied himself and rallied his team in the process. Overcame a Jermaine Gresham fumble as well to go for what, 12 of 18 in the fourth quarter for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. That kid, David, is going to lay his head down tonight. He's going to think, I can do this. I just literally brought my team back in a fourth quarter game against a team. We won the game, and now all of a sudden, I've got next week after the bye week. This is a big deal for Josh Rosen.
No doubt. So that's the offense. On the other side, the defense gave up one big play, the 55-yard touchdown pass to Goodwin. But other than that, the defense played pretty well. Despite no takeaways, they were able to hold San Francisco to 15 points and win the game.
267 total yards the defense actually allowed, right? Yes, there was a big play given up to Marquise Goodwin, beat Patrick Peterson on a crossing route for a 55-yard touchdown. But 267 yards when they gave up 447 yards the first game, almost 450 yards. It's just an incredible performance by this defense to actually whittle down the yardage the way that they did, and they only allowed 15 points once again. Ultimately, may have been their best game overall.
All right, that'll do it for the Arizona Cardinals 2-minute drill. For Ron Wolfley, I'm Dave Pasch.
By the way, staying on that point about the defense, the rush defense as well, only 107 yards rushing by the 49ers, and it sounds still a lot, but when you're considering how successful the Niners were in that first meeting, rushing for 147, and just the way the Cardinals defense looked at times confused, overmatched, and really had no answers, you didn't get that sense. There was one drive, though, third quarter, in which there was like 3 plays in a row, plus 12, plus 14, and a plus 26 on the ground. You're like, oh, here we go. But they settled down, and was able to come up with the needed stops, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that, you look at going into that game, regardless of the record, they were number 2 in rushing in the National Football League, and they've been doing it with backups. Alfred Morris didn't have the game that he had prior. Matt Breida, he had a few runs for the most part. C.J. Beathard really didn't try to run. He was running to try to extend plays with his legs. So, and again, we talked about them shutting the fullback and the tight end down. No Pierre Garçon. So for the most part, I would say the Cardinals won when it came to different matchups, and I think that the offensive line was able to protect Rosen, especially in that fourth quarter. And then you start looking at David Johnson. It was 100 yards, but he had 20 touches. He had 16 carries and then 4 receptions. So those are things that when you look at matchups, that's where the Cardinals won. We talked about converting on third down. They led the 2 teams in first downs, something we hadn't seen. Time of possession, I would think they had the ball less than 4 minutes. Usually it's somewhere between 35, 38, and 22. So they won a lot of little categories when you look at stats, but more importantly, they won the football game.
Yeah, big improvement for the Cardinals in Week 8. Time now to take you inside the Cardinals locker room, your exclusive access. Head coach Steve Wilkes addressing the team via azcardinals.com.
I understand how this feels, man. I understand how this feels. First win at home. First win at home in front of our fans. That's what it's all about. We got a damn bye. We're going to come back tomorrow, put this film to bed. We're going to work this week. We're going to work this week. I hear you, Larry. We're going to work this week. And then we're going to take a couple of days off. Pat P. Break this down. Here we go, baby. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Team. Let's go, baby.
Couple of things there. One, Patrick Peterson, the choice of Coach Wilkes to break down the team, considering all the noise leading up to that ball game, and then the fact that we do need a clarification because there's certainly became a story during the game when a lot of people noticed, including on the broadcast, that Pat P was not at midfield for the coin toss. As one of the captains, you're out there, with the other team's captains. But according to Coach Wilkes, he told Bickley and Murata on his coach's show on 98.7 FM Arizona Sports Station that Pat P had an equipment issue or something that needed to be worked out. So that was why 21 wasn't at midfield. And then you heard in the background in the locker room as they were all hooping and hollering, someone scream, "It's good to have you back, Pat." Now, that was Fitz needling his good friend a little bit because, look, it was a long week, and Peterson didn't do himself or the Cardinals any favors by making it a long week. But I think a lot of all that was put to bed with Coach Wilkes saying, "Pat, break it down."
Yeah, I mean, 1 day off, right? It was a 1 day holdout.
Yeah.
And it was his off day.
Player's day off, so yeah.
Yeah. And Larry's just, he likes to stir the pot a little bit. Listen, I mean, usually the Cardinals defer, right?
Well, yeah, they have.
When they win the toss. So you got to make sure his equipment's right so he can get on the field.
That's true.
I mean, nothing against going out there for the coin toss. You want to defer, but they need him on the field for the first possession.
Absolutely. Of course, the biggest takeaway in the ball game has to be Josh Rosen. He did not look good the last time he was on the field against the Denver Broncos. He even started this ball game, MJ, looking really shaky, some happy feet. Didn't really know not what to do, but I don't know if he was sensing the pressure around him, but he certainly picked it up. We saw a lot more of the screen game, maybe a new wrinkle with the new offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich, and in that fourth quarter, he was just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, and what I think's happening here, and now the game was 15-3, so I don't think they were playing a prevent defense. We got a chance to see a little bit of this in Minnesota. I think sometimes, and this is no discredit to Josh and the Cardinals offense, when you put your foot on the pedal, you got to take advantage of it, and they did with those touchdowns to Fitz and Christian Kirk. Maybe he plays better when things are a little bit looser. Again, they're going to play a cover two mostly from we're not going to let anything over the top. We're going to keep everything in front of us. And so I think he flourishes with maybe a 4-minute offense and a 2-minute offense. And I know the fan base want the Cardinals to use more of that. The only drawback, and you and I have talked about it, is you can't go 3 and out.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean you need to run to the ball and get the ball back like you're trying to score a touchdown on a 2-minute offense. A 4-minute offense, you don't have to huddle, which allows the other team not to substitute. And you can let the play clock go down to 7 or 8 seconds based on chess match. So it'd be interesting to see if we see more of that. But honestly, at halftime, I'm thinking, I know Bradford's not active, but is he getting the best chance to win? He was happy feet, as you mentioned, and this is going to happen to a young quarterback probably in the first half, where his numbers are going to increase in the second half. Staring down receivers, sometimes I think the game's too fast for him. But the only way you're going to get better is actually live reps, and he's getting that now in his NFL career.
Well, the screen game specifically, according to Pro Football Focus, they counted 10 screen plays in that Week 8 victory for the Cardinals. Weeks 1 through 7, there were a total of 23. So of those 10, because I went back and looked, and by my count, there were 6, including 3 on one second quarter drive. But they were effective, whether it was David Johnson, whether it was Chase Edmonds one time, and even screens to the wide receiver. Johnson at one point as a wide receiver, or Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald. It just seemed to get this team in a little bit more of a rhythm, and they were able to carry it over into the second half.
Yeah, I actually tweeted something out, and I probably should have made reference to the last time they played the Niners, but I was just showing, I went to week 2, obviously where they played the Rams, and I was trying to use reference how the Rams used Gurley. But you could see the difference in David Johnson in week 2 as a running back, and then in week 8 as a running back. He was running more to the outside. They weren't trying to run up the middle. And you look at his route tree, definitely having more on the outside the numbers or the hash marks, and you could see how they were trying to get him on matchups, linebacker or safety. So it's a work in progress, but I like what they're doing.
And, of course, when it mattered most in the fourth quarter, Rosen with 12 of 18 for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and, of course, the 2-point conversion. And he might have even been better than that, but keep in mind that there were 2 big moments in that fourth quarter that's probably, or could have, I should say, derailed this team in that fourth quarter. That was the Gresham fumble and the J.J. Nelson drop in the end zone. Rosen didn't let it bother him any. As we've heard several times now, he's able to hit the reset button and all of a sudden come up with big play after big play after big play. And in that fourth quarter, he certainly delivered, especially on third down. They were 4 of 4 on third down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and he's throwing the ball to different guys besides Larry and David Johnson. I mean, Chad Williams did have a catch. You look at Gresham and Ricky Seals-Jones. So I like the fact that he's not locking on one receiver. I would, just because I know Larry's going to catch it, and I trust David in the open field. But spreading the ball around is only going to help this offense, where now you got to cover other guys. Now, as for J.J. Nelson, I just think he's been too inconsistent. And I know the Cardinals like Kendall Wright, but it's been a numbers game there. Trent Sherfield did not dress yesterday, and he's a guy that they're intrigued with. Jalen Tolliver's on the practice squad. So, again, pretty much what you see right now is the roster. But he did get a pass interference call,
yes,
defensive pass interference. And you know how I feel about that. Take some shots down the field, but there's too many drops for me. I mean, at some point, you got to say, you know what? We don't see improvement there. And so, to me, I would definitely look at Wright, and I would try to get Sherfield. Sherfield's more of a next-year guy, and I think Tolliver's more of a next-year guy.
And Sherfield obviously very big on special teams as well. Overall, Rosen 23 of 40 for 252 yards, the 2 touchdowns, the interception. He spoke after the ball game.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, that's why sports are fun.
DJ Humphrey said when you came in the huddle for the final drive, you said, we're going to win this effing game. I'll keep it clean with the mics around. Is that what you said? Did you have confidence?
I always try to give some sort of tidbit as I'm walking into the huddle. Sometimes try to make them laugh, sometimes motivate them a little bit. So I guess I needed a little something. So, I mean, it was fun.
How much of today was you guys just doing what you do, and how much of it was the changes with Byron and being more comfortable in the clarity and other things we've been talking about for a week?
I mean, we really didn't change too much in the offense. The one thing I think Byron's really good with is just his demeanor. I mean, he's played the game. He's been in a lot of big-time situations, so I think he's got really good timing with a lot of his play calls. He's got really good sort of like that poise kind of. He's a steadying force for us on offense, so it's not going too great in the first half, and he did a really good job of helping us sort of rally together and push forwards. But I mean, it wasn't a pretty one by any means, but baby steps here.
You were kind of a shaky first half and 3 quarters for you in the offense, but the players say you're always able to kind of shake those things off. I mean, have you always been that way? Bad times, bad decisions, bad throws don't really affect you?
Man, it's a game. I have fun with it.
In the grand scheme, Josh, how important was it to have the rookie franchise quarterback step up with this kind of defining performance?
I don't know. It's your guys' job to talk about how important it all was. I mean, for us, it was just another win. Whether we won in an awesome fashion like that or blew them out, it's all the same. So, I mean, it's just nice we get to go to the bye week with a win. And sort of, like I said, baby steps have something to move forwards on.
What did you think of what you saw out of Larry in the fourth quarter?
What's up?
What did you think of what you saw out of Larry in the fourth quarter?
I mean, I threw him the ball and he caught it, whether it's a good ball or bad ball. I mean, that's what Larry does, and that's why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'm going to be telling my kids one day about how I got to throw to him.
Fitz caught all 4 passes thrown his direction in the fourth quarter from Josh Rosen, as we are off to see the Wizard right now, as Mike Helm, the stat whiz of the Arizona Cardinals, joining us here on Cards Cover 2, Cardinals manager of media relations. And let's, before we get into Fitz and his numbers, Rosen downplays it, and you like to see it because he's very humble, but that comeback, and specifically a rookie making that comeback. You came up, and I don't know how you do some of this stuff, but it's been a long time since the Cardinals came back with whomever is their quarterback from double digits down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the last time the Cardinals did so was 1999 against Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, I think it was the season opener, came back from 12 down in the fourth quarter. And it was a great performance by Josh. I mean, it's a rare performance for anybody. I think there's a note I got from Elias. I had to go there because those are kind of hard to look up.
Digging deep there.
Yeah, well, real deep. And that he was the youngest quarterback in the Super Bowl era to win a game after just bringing his team back from double-digit down points in the fourth quarter. So it was a great performance. He downplayed it, but what was he? 12 for 16.
Yeah,
and
12 for 18. Yeah.
12 for 18 in the fourth quarter. So yeah, it was solid.
I'm
who was it? Was it Jake Plummer?
In 99?
In 99, yes.
Wow.
You throw so much at him, and he can handle all of it. And this offense through the first three quarters was awful for lack. I mean, let's just be honest. But in that fourth quarter alone, had 186 yards on 36 plays. They just literally a switch was turned, and this offense finally got in gear.
Yeah, and I think it's you could see it really started with Fitz. He was 4 for 4. Throwing to Fitz in the fourth quarter. I think he was 6 of 7 throwing to Fitz and Kirk. But you could see it once he connected a few times with Larry. The crowd gets into it, the team gets into it, and that's kind of the fun part about seeing Larry get involved in the game. When we've talked about it in the press box. Just the fans, even if it's a 10-yard curl route, it seems like it gets the players excited, it gets the fans excited. So yeah, once they started rolling, and you guys kind of hit on to it, MJ earlier. He was hitting a lot of different guys, and we talked that about the last time I was on the show. Ricky Seals-Jones and Christian Kirk and Larry, and
Chad
so he's spreading the ball. Chad Williams around, so everybody got the ball. But it really seemed to, once he got Fitz going and Fitz got going, it kind of got the whole team going.
And speaking of Rosen and his numbers, the 23 of 40, 252, according to your notes, the highest single game totals in franchise history by a rookie. In a win, which is an important distinction, but certainly again it shows, I think, how this team is moving forward. And I know 2018, I'm not going to say it's a lost season, but we know where this team is at and where they're headed. But it's the big picture. Next season, 3 seasons, 5 seasons from now, and if this kid is doing it now as a rookie, he's only going to be able to get better with more reps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then that's. Again, sometimes something we talked about the last time I was here, and it's he's got young guys doing it along with him too. It's not just Fitz. It's kind of fun to see Josh connecting with Fitz so much. 8 catches yesterday, and Larry has been his most targeted receiver over the last couple games. But that's kind of fun, and I think Josh, there's a clip there. That's something he's going to tell his kids about. But you can see Christian still. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Christian's kind of he's still leading all rookie wide receivers in receptions. He's got 31 on the year. Leads all rookie wide receivers in receiving yards. I think 410. So that's just gonna that's gonna get better. Hopefully those guys stick together, and Ricky Seals-Jones, and so yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
I'm not going to put Christian Kirk in the offensive rookie of the year category. I mean, I think he's deserving of top 5. And you usually got to be on a winning team and go to maybe a situation where you can just walk in and start playing like Saquon Barkley, even though the Giants aren't winning. But he deserves consideration. I mean,
all rookie teams.
Exactly. You're talking about DJ Moore, who was drafted by the Panthers. Then you throw in Calvin Ridley, who was drafted by the Falcons, and those guys were first-round picks. And then you have, I think Cortland Sutton was a little bit later pick. But here's Christian Kirk in the second round. The Cardinals, they draft him, and he's putting up numbers that you would draft in the first round. Now, I know that he was disappointed he wasn't a first-round pick, but it couldn't have worked out better for him growing up here and being able to play here in front of his family. This connection we're going to see with these two guys is going to be very interesting. I'd be curious to see when it's all said and done. Obviously, plenty of time to get into that stuff, but just their numbers, just because you could just see they connected in off-season workouts, preseason games, and now we're starting to see in the regular season.
Yeah, everyone wants to be drafted high, but sometimes it's not where you're drafted, but what team you're drafted to.
It's the right situation. Yeah, and Josh, and Josh and Christian have known each other for a long time. They have a connection that goes back to, I think, they went attended a Nike camp together, and Josh hosted them at his house. He's trying to recruit them to go to school at UCLA. So I mean, those guys are good friends, and I think they're going to have fun. I think roommates, and so that'll be a fun connection to watch.
Mike Helm joining us here on Cards Cover 2, and it's going to get lost in the shuffle, but just as impressive as the offense was in that fourth quarter, the numbers you dug up on defense, specifically in that fourth quarter, and offense is always going to get the highlights, but that defense came up specifically with 2 huge stops to get the offense back on the field.
Yeah, I mean the final 3 series for San Francisco, I think they gained 52 total yards, and the big series obviously was after the Gresham fumble. Larry scores to put yourself within 5 points, and they come back, fumble, and so there's under 5 minutes remaining, and so you need a big stop there by your defense, and they did. And I think hold them to 4 total net yards on 5 plays, so there was a penalty in there. So yeah, there was those final 3 drives, 52 total yards. I mean, they scored 3 points I think in the fourth quarter, but none in that final 3 drives, and that's when we did all. We scored 14 unanswered points. So
I'm sitting next to Craig, as I do every Sunday at the, home games, and I said, man, that fumble right there by Gresham, how much time the Cardinals going to have to get the ball back? And your first thing you think is you got to get them off the field, but they got to make a stop. And when they had the lead, and obviously they were much better against the run, but I'm thinking, are they going to have how many timeouts they got? Where's the 2-minute warning? I mean, all those things go through your head because you're wondering that fumble rate. Even if you just get down there and try to kick a field goal, even though you're down, 15-3, you still need a couple scores. But I was wondering the same thing. Okay, defense is going to have to make a stop here, and they did.
Yeah, it was Budda Baker and Rodney Gunter with that sack on 3rd down, and all of a sudden they're forced to punt the football.
Lots of guys making plays on defense during. It was kind of like the first matchup against them. We needed some plays to happen in the fourth quarter, and we got the interception and the fumble. I think in week 4 when we played them, and they were able to kind of come out and shut the door on them again this week.
I know we focus so much on offense, but defense, how refreshing when you, after the game, you're looking at the numbers that Golden and some of the defensive linemen and linebackers actually led the team in tackles. Now, just to be fair, Bethea and Boston and Budda Baker, they play in the box, so it's not like you don't want your corners leading you in tackles. So,
right.
But it was encouraging because that tells me they were winning at the line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah, and Marcus was the really good one to see. Because missing so much time. Last year, the first couple games this year, and you saw yesterday him really get rolling. And even as good as his numbers were, he had I think he finished with 7 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit. The stats are there, but you can kind of see. You saw him on the field when you could running around. That's he kind of plays with his hair on fire. He's that high energy guy, and it seemed like no matter where the ball ended up on the field, he was around it. And he was close. He was pumping up the fans. He was getting excited. So that seemed like kind of the first time we saw like 2016 Marcus, where he was top 5 in the NFL in sacks and just kind of playing all over the place. It was one of those. Seemed like a throwback performance for him.
The play that sticks out to me, besides him getting pressure on the quarterback, was when he was able to get off the line and use the explosion and tackle the ball carrier from the backside.
Yes. I saw,
tackle for loss.
Chased him from behind.
You have to read that play, and then you have to be able to get off the ball and have a little bit of a get off speed to get that ball carrier. And to me, I think he's showing that he's getting closer to being 100%. I don't know if he'll ever be 100% during the season just because of the wear and tear and the bumps and bruises, but he is much closer than he's been in the last couple games.
Wilkes mentioned that after the game and again earlier today about Golden being able to make the tackle on a play that went away from him, and that's not easy, to where you're traveling across the line of scrimmage going east-west as opposed to north-south, and that's a sign that Golden is getting maybe back to where he was, as you, Mike, alluded to, 2016. But it's certainly good, and now something for the Cardinals to build on. Appreciate you coming in once again after a Cardinals victory. Hope it's not another 3-week, 4-week wait before we bring you in again here.
No problem. I mean, it's good news when you come in here on Monday. Now, Larry, maybe the next time we talk to you, he'll be number 2.
Yeah, he's close. I think he's 33 yards away. 33
that's
yards
nothing.
away.
That's one catch, Wiz.
Yeah, and that's that's great. I mean, with Larry, there's it's been fun. Kind of doing stats for him over the years. I've started in 04, and then you're
the guy that started the quarterback list.
Touchdown
list.
Yeah, there's been a lot over the years, but you see him climb, and now he's obviously. It's almost now where he's so high up there, and there's only you don't really do as many notes anymore.
I was hoping
there's only so many places you can go when you're 3, number 2. So
like you said, he can't do any more. He's never going to catch number 1.
Yeah, and every stat I do, it's Jerry Rice or Fitz and Jerry. It's just there's not really much. There's not much company.
Excuse me, I predicted that Larry's going to have 134 yards yesterday.
136.
136. I took the over.
You came up just a little bit shy, MJ.
His best game of the season.
Hey, but the Cardinals got the win. That's all that matters.
Thanks,
we
Wiz.
appreciate it. Speaking of Marcus Golden and his efforts, he was a guest after the ball game with Paul Calvisi on the Arizona Cardinals radio network.
So your running mate, Chandler Jones, the first Niners game, he was NFC Defensive Player of the Week. After the game, he said, you know what, I am quicker. He had rounded into form in week 4. Now with you coming off the knee injury, how'd you feel today?
I feel good. I feel like I'm starting to feel like myself more and more every game I get out there and run. That's the thing about football. You got to play it to be able to get in football shape, man. That's what I've been doing. It's a blessing, man. I just thank everybody that's been helping me and supporting me, everybody with the organization, and I just got to keep doing my part because everybody helping me out. I just got to stay on and do my part.
They didn't hurt you with the screens today, did they?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I came out ready, man. I was running wild in practice all week getting ready for the screen.
What's it like to watch your rookie quarterback go to work in that fourth quarter?
That's big time. That's big time. Like we've been saying this whole time, he got a bright future. I believe in him. He's a young rookie. We got to do more to help him, but I believe that he got a bright future and he's going to keep dominating.
Okay, so Fitz spiked the ball. To our knowledge, in his 15-year career, we've never seen that before. Did you guys notice that?
No, I didn't notice it. But I know how Fitz get me. I know when he get in that mode, he get really emotional. It get me going. I was talking to him this week in practice and telling him how when he get hype out there, then he get everybody hype and get me going. So I'm glad he got to do it. I wish I would have seen it.
You guys must have released a lot of angst and frustration out there today, I believe.
Yes, of course. Anytime you can get off the field and get a win, especially when we've been taking a few losses, and everybody around in this organization, we've been working hard, man. We've been from the coaches on down to everybody in the facility, been working hard. So I feel like everybody, we just deserve this win, and we needed it.
Now, I don't know if you saw this, MJ, earlier today, but the whole Fitz spike story and the explanation behind it was actually front page on Yahoo, like the lead story on Yahoo based off of what occurred on Sunday. That's when you know you've actually done something that has people talking.
Well, and just the fact that he brought it up, and we'll get into it. I mean, Devin, his son, decided to go to the state fair, and Roy told us last night, Roy Green on the postgame show, it was the final day, because I'm thinking he could have picked another day. And Larry obviously was upset that he didn't show up to the game.
Yeah, let's hear from number 11 after the Cardinals beat the 49ers 18-15.
I never spiked the ball before in my life. I was a little frustrated. I had a heavy heart today. My son, Devin, my oldest son, didn't want to come to the game today. So I was a little, my feelings were a little hurt. So I was carrying that all around all day. So when I got in there, I kind of let it out. So all the kids that are watching, I'm sorry, I set a bad example today.
Did he give up on you or something?
I think so. He didn't want to come support us. So, trying to pick up the pieces. I got to be a better father.
What did you learn about your rookie quarterback today for him to engineer that fourth quarter comeback after not playing, not doing a lot in the first 3 quarters?
Well, Josh he's not fazed by, things. I mean, getting hit, bad plays. I mean, his emotions never waver. It doesn't get high, doesn't get low. He always just stays even keel, and that's a great disposition to have as a quarterback, because there's going to be bad plays, there's going to be bad throws, there's going to be drop passes, things like that are going to happen throughout the course of the game, and he never lets those affect him. He always has that belief in his voice, and you can see the conviction in his eyes, and that was on full display, on those 2 last drives today.
When he comes into the huddle, he says, "We're going to win this bleeping game." On that last drive, what goes through your mind to hear a young quarterback say something like that?
Josh doesn't use profanity, man. He's a classy guy. He's a classy guy. If it would have went to like USC, where Carson went, Matt Leinart, he might have said something like that. But he's a clean cut guy from UCLA. But he's passionate. He loves what he's doing. He loves playing the game. He loves the process, the film study, the practice. And when you have a guy that's like that and really has a burning desire to be great, it makes it easy to follow.
Is it unusual in your experience for a rookie not to let moments get too big for him or to be able to shake things off so easily as he does?
Let me think of the rookies. I think I played with 3 rookie quarterbacks, and everybody's different. Everybody's different, but just the way he is, the way he came in, his confidence is infectious. He passes it around to everybody.
Fitz certainly busy on Sunday. He was targeted 12 times, had the 8 catches, and as we talked about, the 102 yards leaves him 33 yards shy of passing Terrell Owens for number 2 on the all-time yardage list. He will get it when it happens, probably week 9, or I should say week 10 against Kansas City. But certainly Fitz has earned the respect of just about everyone around the NFL. One of the guys that he meets up frequently, including twice a year, first with Seattle, now with San Francisco. Richard Sherman, well, the Cardinals defender had some high praise for number 11 after yesterday's win.
It hasn't changed. He's still a handful, and he's crafty, and he finds a way to get into his spots. And you always got to be on your toes when you're playing Larry, and it's an immense honor every chance we get to line up against each other and battle. It's iron sharpening iron. Today I made my plays, and he made a few great grabs, and that's why he's getting the gold jacket. And it's an honor to get to play against him, and I look forward to the next shot.
Do you know something?
No, I don't. How?
Trade deadline's tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Now, this is how rumors get started, Grialou. You said
49ers defender.
Thank you. Okay.
Sherman knows something. He said, I look forward to the next time. Cardinals and 49ers aren't
Good
playing one another
observation
the rest of this season.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did they talk at the ball game, say we'll see you in 2019?
Possibly.
I don't know.
Both of those guys are going to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Larry's going to be a first ballot. Sherman, great story. Went to Stanford, dropped to the 5th round for some odd reason. Obviously succeeded, I should say, and then going to back-to-back Super Bowls. I think yesterday on the field, he was number 1 active corners interceptions. Patrick Peterson was number 2.
Wow. I did not know that. Good knowledge, MJ.
You can use that maybe next year.
Cards
Sherman
cover
and
2 continuing here on a Victory Monday. Time for the Bird Gang to sound off using the hashtag Cards Cover 2 to get involved in the show. That's using the number 2 on that hashtag. We'll see what the Bird Gang wants to know about here. First with Twitter. User wants to know, are there any possible roster additions? Speaking of the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday, Cardinals might add maybe a lineman or someone on the defensive side.
Well, they've turned over the some of the practice squad guys, and I know you're referring to the 53-man roster. Teams aren't trading good linemen. Linemen, obviously, there's a premium for those guys, and usually if you have a guy on the practice squad. Now, I do think the Cardinals will be taking phone calls, and they do have a logjam at wide receiver. We'll see if J.J. Nelson's is an option. I don't know if they're willing to trade him. Obviously, he's been active on game day, but he's been very disappointing. I think you could get a late round pick from him, if any, but I don't see the Cardinals going out and getting a linebacker or an offensive lineman. I could be completely wrong. The phone rings, and you got to make a decision. But the key is looks like Buck's going to be here the rest of the season. Don't know that for sure, but just connecting dots based on his salary. Hassan Reddick has found a role in this defense. He's got a bright future here. We know that Patrick's not available. We know that David Johnson's not available. So if it's something that happens, I think it'll be minor, nothing major.
1 p.m. on Tuesday is the deadline. Also from Twitter, after seeing Fitzgerald and Johnson with season-high stats, who do you think might excel next in the offense now that Leftwich has 2 weeks to tweak the playbook?
It's a good question. I want to say Ricky Seals-Jones because I think Gresham has really come along as a blocking tight end. We know that he couldn't care less about catching passes. Jones needs to be more consistent, become a better blocker. That means more reps on game day. But I like the matchups with him on those intermediate routes. And Rosen can throw that ball to the sidelines. So maybe the 15 to 20-yard routes, I think Ricky Seals-Jones, he could see his targets go up.
One more from Twitter, and this has been a topic of conversation for a long, long time. Do you think that it was a coincidence that the defense played better in the 4-3 scheme as opposed to their normal scheme, or would that be reading too much into yesterday's defensive game plan?
Well, it's only one game. I think they were embarrassed giving up 195 yards to the Broncos, and Wilkes let it know that if you're not going to stay in your gaps and if you're not going to be disciplined, you're not going to be on the football field. So I'll lean with it was refreshing. I don't know if you can do it every single play, every single game. It's all based on personnel and groupings. And yesterday they used a fullback and a tight end, so that's why the Cardinals were able to counter. But I would like to see more of it, if that makes sense.
Well, and just to piggyback off that, Buck did grade out well according to Pro Football Focus. So if nothing else, he's earned more snaps and that trust that coaches talk about to be put on the field more.
Ding, ding, trust. They had to trust him, and you got to give him credit because he's worked hard. He didn't go in there and pout. He plays on special teams. He knew he was going to be active on game day. He looks at himself as one play away from getting in there. And the main thing is the coach thought he played well. Regardless of what the Pro Football Focus put out, the coach thought he played well, and that can go a long way when it comes to playing time.
Staying with your questions, moving to Instagram. User wants to know, will we see number 31 on deep routes?
Possibly. I think they want to get him more involved in the screen game because he can obviously make guys miss it.
Open space.
Open space, stiff arm. They want to get him on that wheelhouse route. We've seen him catch some balls down the seam. That means he's playing in the slot then. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. But right now, focus on getting the ball to him in the running game and then the screen passes and then work him into the outside, if not in the slot, for some of these upcoming matchups.
Last question here on Bird Gang Sound Off. What did the Cardinals do in the fourth quarter they didn't do in the first three?
Well, Rosen was off. They weren't able to capitalize, on chunk plays. I just think field position was an issue early in the game. Obviously, you don't want to start off in your own red zone. That led to the safety versus the 6 points. So, and I think they made some adjustments. And again, you got to give Rosen and the defense a lot of credit in the fourth quarter. When the game was on the line, they found a way to win, and they were able to finish this game. Where we watched previous games, whether you go back to the Seahawks game or the Bears game, they weren't able to finish, and they lost it by a combined 5 points in those two games. Can you imagine we were sitting here at 3-5 or 4-4? Because you would have signed up for that if I would have told you that in the preseason.
Absolutely. Considering where they were, projected to be and everything that had changed in the offseason, absolutely.
Just a new head coach, new coordinators. We got a new coordinator now, new players, new system. 4-4, but they are what they are. They're 2-6, and hopefully they can scratch out some wins in the second half.
By the way, in that fourth quarter, 4 of 4 on third down, 2 of 10, quarters 1, 2, and 3. Convert on third down, move the change. You got good things, the potential for good things to happen, and they did for the Cardinals in that victory on Sunday. Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off on a Victory Monday. We'll do it again on Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2, and that's the number 2 to get involved in the show. Of course, if we didn't get to your question here on this Monday, keep them coming. We'll always reach out on Twitter and Instagram as well. Cardinals get the job done 18-15. Special thanks behind the scenes to Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Grialou, Jonathan Hayward, Brandon Natus, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sipes. For my partner Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. This has been Cards Cover 2.